Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 EFA Design Showcase Awards, a presentation of industry-leading design excellence. My name is Shirah Kasongo Cahill. I am a landscape architect with SWVR in Rochester, New York, and I'm going to be the moderator and jury representative for the presentation today. Today we have project representatives from great projects, our award of merit, as well as our honorable mention projects today. So quickly to introduce everyone, from the Spires at Berry College, from Faulkner Design Group, we have Taylor Knisley presenting. To present the Springs Living at Lake Oswego, from LRS Architects, we have Ray Yancey here with us today. Presenting the Ridge Pinehurst, we have David Fick. From Lance Boggio, Architects and Interior Designers. Presenting the Livewell Center, I just moved this for Resilient Living, we have Dustin Julius from RLPS, and presenting the Highlands at Wyomissing Personal Care Building, Amy Carpenter from SFCS Architects is with us today. And finally, Maravilla at the Domain will be presented by Jerry Walleck from Perkins Eastman. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about SAGE. This is a competition put on each year by Environments for Aging, but SAGE collaborates with EFA each year by providing the jury members as well as doing the presentation at the conference and the follow-up webinar so people can learn about these great projects. So a little bit about SAGE for those who are unfamiliar. SAGE was founded in 1994. It is a multidisciplinary group of professionals who work for the continued improvement of the built environment for seniors. So the founders of SAGE founded the group really as a reaction to the Federal Nursing Home Reform Act of 1987, or OBRA 87, which many people are familiar with, which of course was the regulatory shift that changed how we care for our elders in nursing homes. So SAGE founders recognized that there was a real lack of guidance on how the built environment would support the regulatory changes, and that if design wasn't following operations, it could in fact hinder operations. So where was the guidance for design? And I know on a personal note, I spoke about this at EFA, you know, I grew up spending a lot of time in a nursing home with my great-grandmother, and I volunteered there as a kid. And, you know, the smells and the visuals and the experiences that I had there are still very vivid to me. I mean, they stayed with me because it was a very intense environment. And in contrast, my grandmother, who is the ultimate matriarch of my family, lives in a senior community that she absolutely loves. It has assisted living, independent living, as well as memory care. And you know, I always say this, but she's like Benjamin Button, aging backwards in her community. She thrived throughout COVID. She's even said to me that she feels like she's had a second chance at having a career because of her civic involvement in the community. So, you know, the fact that we all get the opportunity to be part of these projects that genuinely change and improve quality of life for our elders is really, really inspiring. And when I first met some of the founders of SAGE and SAGE board members, you know, I thought to myself, like, wow, this is a group of, you know, social hippie activists that, you know, I can really identify with. These people are continuing to push the envelope in terms of research, advocacy, education, and of course, design. And they don't want to stop because the idea is constant improvement. So the message here is, if you are not a SAGE member, you know, join us. It's a $95 membership fee. As a member, you get 10% off of EFA conference, which pretty much covers your dues easy. And it's also just really great and inspiring company. I also have to mention that this presentation was originally given at the EFA Conference 2021 in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which for those who have been there, it's an amazing and inspirational learning experience. Even with the added anxiety labor of COVID, it was still awesome this year. So please join us in Milwaukee 2022. Hopefully we can, you know, get closer to each other and feel more comfortable hugging old friends, and hope to see you there. Also want to mention that the Environments for Aging magazine is now accepting submissions for the 2022 design showcase. So if you have an amazing project that you would like to submit, now is the time. Reservations are due on November 10th. Which is soon, but that's just to reserve your spot. Presentations are due on December 1st, so you do have time to get that done if you're interested. And I'll be a jury member next year, so I can't wait to see, or this year as well. I can't wait to see the great projects that come through. You can go on to the EFA magazine website, and it's fairly straightforward how to submit a project. Okay, quick housekeeping items. You will be muted throughout this webinar. If you have any questions, please write them into the Q&A portion, and we really hope that we'll be able to get to them. If we have a little bit of time at the end, we will go through all of those questions one by one for the presenters at that time. Also, SAGE is an AIA approved provider, and I have to say this. So, and also provides AIA webinars each month. So if you need the continuing education units, plug into the SAGE webinars that happen monthly. Please note that you must be registered for and logged into the webinar to receive your AIA credit or certificate of completion. And SAGE will report the credits earned by the course attendees to AIA and will also provide the certificates of completion within 1 week if requested. If you are not able to get your member number in or request the certificate during the presentation, you can contact Lori Bridgman from the SAGE Federation. You can go right on to the SAGE website, and it's very easy to find her contact information, but shoot her an email and she can help you out. Okay, so now we can get into the course. So the course description, this webinar is going to highlight the award-winning projects from the Environments for Aging magazine 2021 Design Showcase. As I mentioned, we are lucky to have representatives from the winning teams, and they're going to share their unique projects. They're going to talk about their challenges, and they're also going to talk about the solutions that they implemented. The learning objectives include, but are not limited to, becoming familiar with trends at the forefront of design for senior environments. We're going to learn about the role of program generation in designing successful and innovative, vibrant communities. We're going to learn strategies to foster engagement, as well as connect with your surrounding neighborhood and context. And finally, we're going to gain insights on the design award submission, review, and award process. So that'll be my piece. So I'll tell you guys about this, a little bit about the jury process. This was my first year being on the jury. It is a great experience. I've done the renovation awards before, but this is my first time with the design showcase. It's a fantastic learning experience where you're working with architects, there's landscape architects, of course, interior designers, providers, consultants, regulators, educators, a full gamut on the jury in order to get many different perspectives and really get into the nitty-gritty of these projects. And I have to mention that, those who are winners of this award really are very deserving. It is a rigorous process that we go through to select those who are recognized. So basically the way it works is we were 16 jurors this year. On a regular year, they fly you out to a project site and you get to tour one of the amazing projects and meet each other and network and get into a room and wave your hands around and things like that. Unfortunately, as everything in the past year and a half, we did this via Zoom, which was still awesome. So as I mentioned, 16 jurors, we started out with 53 projects to review. And the way they do it is they break them into 2 batches and they'll send you 2 first initial batches, which have about 12 to 15 projects in them each. So you have 30 projects to review. One, you do a deep dive, and the next one you do a little bit more of a less in-depth review. And the deep dive, well, for both, you're looking at the competition metrics, which are aesthetics, experience, innovation, and operations and maintenance and all of that. And what we do is we give a numerical score for each of those things, and then we provide comments under each of those categories as well. So highlights, lowlights, what really stands out, what we hate, what we love, etc. And then with the one that we do less of a deep dive, we just give the numerical score and we can give comments if we want. Then all of those get sent back to EFA, and then finalists are selected from all of those divvied up results and sent back again to the jurors. So we get another list of 12 to 15 projects, which we go through and we rate again using the same matrix and looking at it even more profoundly. After that, we meet for a full day where we first go into focus groups and we sort of, defend and vie out which projects we think should really be recognized. And then we come up with a platform for which ones we want to recognize and why. And then we all meet back together and we discuss it. And we're like, well, I agree. Well, I don't agree, etc., until we finally have a silent vote. And the winners are sent to us all via email. So we find out before everyone else. But basically, just to give you an idea of what that looks like and to recognize that, it is a rigorous process. The people who are awarded really deserve this recognition. And also, if you are interested in becoming a jury member, SAGE is always looking for talented professionals who would like to be part of this process. So please, again, you can contact Lori if you're interested in this, and we can see if maybe we'll meet next year. And with that, I am going to pass it to our first presenter, who is Taylor Knisley, and she is going to be presenting The Spires at Berry College, which is our first Award of Merit winner.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Taylor Knisley. I'm a project manager at Faulkner Design Group in Dallas, Texas. I thought it was interesting to mention my 6-year work anniversary was actually yesterday. So I figured with that comes this opportunity to speak in front of large audiences and be recorded. So this is my first time doing something like this, so I am a little bit nervous, but this project is really special to me. It was actually the first project I started when I joined Faulkner. So just a few quick stats on the project. The community name is The Spires at Berry College. It's located in Rome, Georgia. It is a CCRC. It's the first in the Northwest Georgia, and the first built on a college campus, which is pretty unique. So about the breakdown, it is independent living, which consists of 26 freestanding cottages, 127 apartments, and 17 unit lodge. The healthcare building has 36 memory care units, 35 skilled nursing and short-term rehab units, and 36 assisted living apartments. And we completed the project in September of 2020. A lot of travel during the pandemic. Go to the next slide. So a little bit of history about Berry College and how we got here. So Berry College was founded on the principle of exchange. So founder Martha Berry provided educational opportunity, and in turn, the students helped build and operate their school back in 1902. So with this principle and with the alumni in the area and the residents of Rome, they were longing for a place to retire near the college. So the life plan community conceptualized. The main goal for the alumni to retire and cultivate an environment both in the community and on the college campus that fostered relationships between the residents and the students. The students did not initially take to the idea of this project. So the marketing and operation division, along with Berry College, got together and they brought in future residents onto the campus for meet and greets and mingling events between the seniors and the students. For example, during exam week, they had the seniors do nice things like deliver cookies to the students. So with those strong efforts, that brought the students on board, and in the end, we've heard that they're very enthusiastic and it's proven to be very successful. So we'll go to the next slide. So this is an overview of the site. You can see the college there on the right and the community on the left. So Berry College has the largest contiguous college campus in the US, spanning 27,000 acres. And it was built, the community was built on a brownfield site. And there's obviously a lot of sites adjacent to Berry College available that were considered. But the quarry site was selected despite it being the most challenging to develop because of its potential to deliver some of the best views of the surrounding landscape, which included Eagle Mountain Lake and Lavender Mountain. It's truly a beautiful area. Every time we were there, we saw deers, and there's a waterfall and the fall leaves changing. So it really attracts not only people that live in Rome, but I have seen interviews from people, a lot of people from California. So it's just a nice place to land. And the site was just a third of a mile away from the college. So it would connect the community and the campus by a simple walking trail. And if we can go to the next slide, but this allowed easy access to the campus for the residents where they could attend school functions and events, sporting events, or even enroll in courses. So with the seniors having access to the campus, likewise, Berry College has what they call a LifeWorks program, where the students work at the campus and gain personal and professional development experiences. So the Spires of Berry College, from its inception, was designed to partake in this program and allow students to receive real-world experiences that align with the academy study areas. And they benefit from career counseling, leadership, and mentoring that the residents are able to provide. We can go to the next slide. So on top of that, from an interior design standpoint, we were able to provide several areas within the community that would support that intergenerational experience outside of the LifeWorks college program. And we'll show you on the following slides a couple of these areas I'll mention, but we were able to provide a club room outfitted with a shuffleboard and game tables, a multi-purpose room designed for lectures, speeches, community events, musical performances. And actually the residents did request a meeting with the designer. So we were able to sit in the multi-purpose room and answer questions directly from the residents that lived there, which was a unique experience that you don't always get to hear those opinions after the project's completed. But the relationships between the resident and student continue to grow through those shared activities, like baking, kayaking, fishing, walks and talks on the numerous nature paths that are available on both the campus and the community, all designed to invite the community in, encourage family visits, providing the forming of lasting relationships that transcends the generational barrier and that feeling of isolation. Go to the next slide. So this is the main lobby of the IL building. And throughout both the exterior and interior of the community, elements inspired by both historic and more modern architecture on campus were used to have it fit within the context of the school. Large expanses of glass with lots of natural light, really taking advantage of the views out to that quarry. And we really wanted to celebrate that beautiful setting. So our color palette was inspired by that, using some saturated jewel tones, warm neutrals, and materials were selected like split face stacked stone, exposed wood trusses, just for a more modern, but still rustic aesthetic. Go to the next slide. you'll also see throughout, we really tried to curate the art in connection with the setting. So here you see the lounge, and then on the top right image, that bar kind of opens up into the lobby, really keeping those spaces activated. When we were able to go back and visit, these were some popular happy hour areas. Go to the next slide. This is the formal dining room. Again, really opened up views to that quarry, exposed wood trusses. All right, next slide. This is the private dining room. Next slide. This is the memory care dining room, lobby and living room. And we really wanted to carry the same level of design from the independent living building throughout every level of care, so the resident feels comfortable as they make those moves. Next slide. This is just another detailed shot of the memory care living room. Next shot. Top left is the multi-purpose that I spoke to earlier. Bottom left is part of the grill and casual dining. And then we have the theater located in the AL building. Next. There was a whole wellness area, which on the left, you can see the waiting area where there was a reception desk, waiting, and then off of that, the salon, which is pictured on the top right. Beyond the waiting area, we had the indoor pool, and then there was also fitness, which I believe is on the next slide. Here's another example where we were actually able to have access to the college photography library. So we featured both historic photography and current photography of students, where we did here in the fitness room of some of their sporting events. And there on the left, we have a veterans wall. Next slide. This is just the back view of the community, which is the area facing the quarry. So lots of opportunity for outdoor dining and walking paths. And that sums it up.
Thank you, Taylor. Sorry, the logistics of Zoom. I appreciate your time, and thank you for telling us about the project. So now I'm going to go into some of the jury comments for this particular project. So what we found really exciting was the innovative intergenerational program. I mean, we all got excited about the idea of the students working at the college and the destigmatization of senior communities by having this awesome and innovative contact. We also noticed that there was this challenging site with the quarry, that they were dealing with a brownfield. Some of the comments also talked about, wow, this place is going to keep people young, this idea of lifelong learning and having a program that is really an innovative program. So the submission tip here is tell a story. So the thing is that, we see a lot of really amazing projects come in. I mean, all of them are arguably beautiful. All of them, like aesthetically are lovely to look at. But what we're really looking at is something that is innovative, something that gets us excited. And when you tell a story, particularly in this one, you start to feel like you identify with the people who are going to be the residents, with the students, with the caregivers, with all of these things. They start to become characters and something that you get excited about. So With that, I'm going to move to the next one. Thank you again, Taylor.
Thank you.
I'm going to put you on, or if you can mute yourself, you already did it. So with the next one, I'm going to pass this to Ray Yancey, who is going to be speaking to the Springs Living at Lake Oswego.
Hi, thank you, Shirah. As Shirah mentioned, I'm Ray Yancey, the Director of Senior Living with LRS Architects in Portland, Oregon. And our firm, we're about 120 people of architects and interior designers with a large portion of work in senior living. Our practice is diverse, which really helps to inform our senior living studio as well, just with the diversity of the projects related to apartments and multifamily and commercial work, and all of those things really help to kind of keep us on the cutting edge of senior living work. This project was pretty unique for us in that it's a long-term client, the Springs Living, and they were looking to kind of do a different project for them. It was pushing more urban, and so this site came available, and gave us a great opportunity to showcase some of those urban attributes. The one aspect about the site is that it had been sitting there for a long time, and I think it's because of a lot of the issues that related to the site, particularly zoning. There was a height restriction, 45 feet. There was vehicular access aspects that were problematic, and open and landscape requirements in this particular district that made it very difficult to develop the project. But a little bit about the Springs Living. They're a regional developer in Oregon and Montana, and their communities include independent, assisted, and memory care, and a continuing care model, and generally include roughly about 200 apartments in each of their communities. And this one's no different. It has that mix. And is about 216 units. The apartments, we have 75 IL, 117 AL, 24 memory care. And you can see in this image a beautiful roof terrace for this project, which I'll discuss a little bit later in the presentation. But let's go to the next slide. On this, these two slides here really help to kind of talk about connections, and that was a key point in this project, and that we wanted to connect this community with the surrounding neighborhood. Many of the people that were going to live here are coming from the surrounding area, and part of that is we wanted to activate the edges and the corners, and these represent two of the main corners of the project, which I'll show a little bit more detail on a few of the next slides. But this really typified really wanting to create a community that was much more connected with the neighborhood. And this particular area is actually an emerging retail, shopping, and restaurant district. In working with the city in the development of the project and our client, they wanted to create a gateway to this district, which this corner gateway you can see here on the right is beginning to form for this district. This actually is a public and semi-private space. So you've got this water feature which separates the two. Behind is an area that spills out from the main IL dining and faces the water on the other side. And this side is a public space that's on the corner of two major streets in this particular district. Next slide. So to show you kind of the idea, the main design element is represented here in this left image with these double ring configuration with chamfered corners to create public and private outdoor areas and maximizing landscape and solar access throughout the community. As you can see in the image on the left, south is to the bottom and north is to the top. So we're able to really maximize the solar access into the space, while also forming these edges along the street where activities can spill out from common areas within the community, and they're energized with dining and an area that's called Fancho's, which is kind of a bar bistro casual dining area, which really spills out right next to the sidewalk. And so we can get people, residents out there and engaged with the community, and not just kind of in the building and not really engaged. And so that was a big component of how we laid out this project on the site. And you can see that to the kind of off of Cruz Way Place is where access or vehicular access can be. And so it really allowed us to push the building up to the corner and really engage in the community there. And then the image on the right, you can see is the first floor plan where we have parking. And this site, again, was challenging, that it had over 30 feet of height between the southern corner and the northern corner. And so we utilized that slope to push parking into the hillside and did structured parking. And this provided the ability for us to maximize the site usage and also to pull the active areas, which you can see in the image on the right, circling the courtyard and really energizing and providing a very compact and active space for residents within the community, but also on the edges, pushing out and again activated with those same amenities, which include dining, fitness, wellness, the theater, multi-use. All of those things can both be focused into a central courtyard, which is a private space for them to connect, as well as the edges where it's a more public connection as well. So kind of an inward outward concept in trying to activate those types of spaces. Next slide. So these are just the upper levels, again, showing the assisted and memory care, similar configurations, again, kind of town centers where the efficiency of staff and residents can be in one place, but also activate those courtyards and get a lot of solar daylight into those spaces. And then, of course, on the right-hand side, you can see the rooftop terrace, which was created again to solve a few problems. One was our height of 45 feet cut that off, so we couldn't put a floor there. So we were able to put a rooftop terrace, which gave us more daylighting. It also provided us more landscaping, which we needed to meet those requirements. So it was kind of solving multiple issues with that, and it's a beautiful place. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, sorry. Looking at the wrong screen there. So this section really kind of helps to show the design and how we step the project up the 30-foot slope and tuck the parking into the hillside. And then also allowed us to have the activities engage the courtyards, as well as providing the solar access, which is the south is on the right of this, I'm sorry, on the left of this image, and kept our stories to 4 stories so we could get some good daylighting into those courtyards. And then those are situated to really activate the IL, AL, and memory care on those different levels. Next slide. So this is a representation of the two courtyard, two views of the same courtyard, but you can kind of see on the right the AL up above, which is connected to their dining space with a covered area so they can spill out there. And then you can see as you walk into the community, you're invited right into the landscape. That was a very important component, was really having that connectivity to the landscape on site, and then the activities around the perimeter of this that can spill out and activate that courtyard. Next slide. This one is just kind of showing again that as you walk through the community inside, you're always connected to the landscape. It was very important that we maintain that view and activity and bringing that daylight into the interior of the project. And so wherever you're at inside the building, you're connected to the landscape. Next slide. These are two views of the public courtyards that are along the street edges. The one on the right with the fire, that's actually spills out from the main IL dining and forms that kind of semi-private space at the corner of Gateway with the water feature. And so that's just a great activity area. People spill out there after dinner, and then it's used all day long. This is a night shot, of course, but it gets a lot of sunlight, and there is shading and cover for residents there. And then the one on the left is spills out from Fancho's, so you can have a nice casual breakfast, those kinds of things. But it's right along the sidewalk, so again, you're really connected to the neighborhood. Next slide. This is the view of the rooftop terrace, which really I think is a huge boon for this particular project. It was really not anticipated when we first started the project, but as we went through the zoning and was trying to solve a lot of the problems we had, this really became the solution and just really became a huge resource for the residents, and it is just really loved by everyone. It really provides a whole different perspective when you're up here. It's private and secure, but it's still, you feel like you're connected to the neighborhood because you can see the surrounding landscape, and it just has a lot of amenities in this area, including dog walk, kind of an outdoor wine bar area, barbecue, bocce court, of course the putting green, all of those things. So it's just it's a great amenity for residents. Next slide. There's a couple more views, seeing the dog walk on the right, and some outdoor alfresco dining and with the bocce court. Next slide. On the interior, we kind of coined a term, kind of casual sophistication. We're using natural walnut accents, stone, and biophilic colors and patterns to really kind of bring the indoors or the outdoors indoors. And so you can kind of see some of those features in here. With the pool, again, that's connected to the courtyard. You can see the nice daylighting coming into there. There's actually doors to spill out to there, along with the other wellness areas. The theater is the one place that didn't need daylighting, and so we were able to kind of push that into the corner and had a good place for it to provide it's almost 100-seat theater for residents. Next slide. You can see some of the casual dining areas, Fancho's on the right, the wine bar, which is off of the roof terrace on top. You can go out and there's a nice covered area and cafe tables and whatnot to provide activities out there. And then the open dining, we have a chef's table, which is off to the left, not in this view, but you can really feel like you're in the kitchen itself. Next slide. Then this is a residential view. Again, you can see the large windows, nice daylighting, just simple palette, warm tones, biophilic connections to the landscape beyond, all was very important in the project. Next slide. All right. In closing, I think my time's up, but in closing, I'd just like to say it's a pleasure to be in the company of this talented group presenting today, and that would like to say thank you to Sage and EFA for their incredible for bringing these incredible projects forward, and your support in raising the bar in senior living design.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ray. This project is awesome. So I'll do the same thing as I did on the last one. I'm going to go through some of the jury comments. So the first one, innovative site design, creating space on a challenging site. Especially myself as a landscape architect, I was really impressed that even with a challenging site with a lot of grade change and also a tight site without a lot of space, they gave so much priority to their exterior spaces and really created this indoor, outdoor, active community, as opposed to, you know, here's our postage stamp courtyard. It's very impressive, right? The next one was impressive square footage costs, considering the level of finishes. I'll get to that in the submission tip. The vernacular use of material that will age well, and oh my goodness, this project looks like the renderings. So this project in particular was actually submitted as an on the boards project the year previously. And we get a lot of on the boards projects submitted. And it's always hard because we all know that renders look like utopia on the best day in the world. And so it's really hard to judge them against projects that are actually built. But the fact that this project looks so much like the renderings and they were actually able to achieve that was very impressive. So the submission tip here was built projects have an edge, and also jury is looking at numbers. So I mentioned the impressive square footage cost. So in each of the submissions, it says what the square footage cost is. So you can have a lot of beautiful, amazing projects that are also extraordinarily expensive. And so you start to kind of go, so, you know, but the fact that this actually had a competitive square footage cost and had that level of finishes really made it stand out. Okay, with that, I am going to pass it to the next presenter, who is going to be presenting the Ridge Pinehurst. I'm going to hand it to David Fick.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. This is a great forum to learn more about what's happening out there. My name is David Fick. I'm the president at Lance Boggio Architects. We're a firm of somewhere in the 40s, maybe close to 50 staff members right now. We have offices in Denver, Colorado, and Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Who wouldn't want to have an opportunity to work where you could live in the summers in Denver and in the winters in Florida? And I'll let you know how I'm able to make that work when when my team lets me be able to move around like that. We have offices that primarily focus on senior living. We are currently working on projects from California across the Southwest, all the way to Florida and up the East Coast. So we're predominantly in an area that, because of our length of longevity of our firm of over 40 years in senior living, we're well connected, just like everybody else here. So we're going to present today the project called The Ridge at Pinehurst. Some projects might be given a name like Valley View, and there's no valley and there's no view. But if you look at the next slide, give you an indication of why this is called The Ridge at Pinehurst. The ridge actually sits on a ridge. It has about 60 foot of fall from one part of the site that's at the north, and it falls off to the south and to the west. And it also sits off of a nationally recognized golf course called Pinehurst. Why this is all important? Well, it's an affluent community, and they focus a lot on outdoor activities and activities in general. Next slide. So we incorporated these elements, and I'm going to cover the three primary objectives that we presented to the client and sprinkle in a few other ideas that we presented. But they center around the indoor-outdoor connectivity, the wellness and fitness that is a response to the community, but also invites the community to be a part of this site. And then lastly, the fitness and activities. And like I said, there's a few other items that I'll drop in there as well. Next slide. This is the plan. We're going to focus today on what you see to the top side of the screen. That's independent living. There's also assisted living and memory care on this site. What you'll see there at the top of the project is a bridge going over to phase 1A, and then there's a phase 2, and that would round off what's happening on the east side of the site. On the west side of the site is yet to come, but this is a community that is really focused on inviting everybody around in. It's not a closed off campus. We do have plans for the potential of more of a mixed use building and continuing to grow the independent living, with even a possibility of skilled nursing on this site. Next slide. So this is the independent living portion of the building. To the bottom side of the image, you'll see where the community entrance is. And one of the great things about this project is there's no reduction in level of amenities, level of care. There's just the feeling from when you walk from independent living into assisted living and so forth, it all is relatively the same. Of course, there are things that you need to take care of in assisted living and memory care, but the level of finishes is absolutely spectacular, and you'll see some slides coming up. But the first one of the items that we'll look at as we move forward now, the next image will show how we worked with the outdoor spaces. But before we do that, the aesthetics of this project, located in Denver, outside the mountains, it has a rustic, a characteristic of the mountain resorts. And how do you do that but still keep this project economical? And when you look at the facade, if you took out that fin wall that has the stonework on it, it would look like a pretty typical apartment building. But when we introduce some color, some of the fin walls, and then add the spectacularness of this entrance feature. Now, this is the back side of where the porte cochere drop off is. So when you walk in, and you'll see an image here shortly, when you walk in, the view just explodes outside, and you see natural light, you see connectivity to the outside. Next slide. Again, looking at the facade and the character, a lot of the determination of this was, again, those courtyards in the mountains, the ski towns and so forth, that it's inviting to be inside, but it's also a great opportunity to be outside. And even in Denver, the outdoor spaces are well used. We're seeing that more and more. We know that this is something that is asked for in just about every community, that the outdoor spaces are something that you focus on. So here, and we're going to go through some of these a little bit more detail, but here you see a variety of different passive and active spaces and how they connect to the inside. The fitness actually spills out onto a patio. You see that curved wall off on the side. That is actually the indoor pool that has the hot tub or spa. It also has a resistance channel in it. So the connectivity to all these spaces, you actually are invited to move outside even when you're inside. Next slide. The dining spills outside. In Colorado, they say that there's over 300 days of sunshine, and there's days that are in January, February, March where it can reach 70 degrees. And these outdoor spaces on those days are still well used. Next slide. So the design of this is creating some active spaces, like you see, bocce ball, there's outdoor pickleball. So there's inviting the community at large, but also just our residents alone to come out and use these spaces. Next slide. There's passive spaces as well to be able to even invite family over and enjoy these outdoor spaces. A lot of communities are implementing the fire pits and so forth. I will say is that this community is trending to be a little bit younger initially. So younger being in the later 70s. The level of finishes, the outdoor connections is a big part of that when trying to connect with the people of the surrounding areas, as I mentioned, the Pinehurst Golf Club. Next slide. And if you're working in Colorado on a project, you got to remember your furry friends. The dog population is actually increasing at a much faster rate than the human population. And just about all of the communities that we are working on now, at least I'd say 75% of them is introducing some form of a dog park. Giving an example, our office alone has at least 8 dogs that attend every day with their caregiver themselves. Next slide. And did I mention the views? So the views on this site this is looking east. So you have these long distant views. There you see the Pinehurst Golf Course in the background, as well as views to the lake on the south and the mountains to the west. But introducing these larger balconies, larger than we see normally, and in this instance, what you're looking at is a corner balcony, provides that sense of just normalcy, that you could be living at your home is what it feels like. And the large expanses of glass that it actually goes from floor to ceiling, and in some cases from wall to wall. So that the explosion of the view to the outside is phenomenal. Next slide. This is that inside space that we were talking about. That okay, that it explodes to the outside. Next slide. Some of the indoor cafe dining areas that this is a nighttime shot, so you can't see because of the dark windows. Backlit onyx high-end finishes. Next slide. Here's the dining that spilled out to that outdoor dining area. Lighting that follows with the exterior. Next slide. And the dining that has, next slide. Of course, a lot of these communities are also seeing the dining venues that can see into the kitchen. Next slide. The multi-purpose rooms that are well used, but as you'll see here, the pickleball court on the bottom. Next slide. We'll go through real quick, I promise. This is the back, next slide. This plan invites the community in because it has this fitness center. Next slide. The fitness center it rivals any fitness club. Next slide. That has treatment rooms as well as these massage rooms. You can notice the backlighting. Next slide. I think only a few more slides. Here's a salon. Next slide. Again. And the signage, here's the pool. So we'll go quick past the floor plan. And next slide. So the fitness area, next slide, has connectivity. There's the pickleball that you just saw that acts as a multi-purpose room as well. The actual stage folds out of like a Murphy bed out of the wall. Next slide. And here you see a resistance channel in the background, which on the Saturdays, they throw noodles in there and it acts as a lazy river for the grandchildren. Next slide. These are some of the internal resident apartments, which we know is a focus these days. Next slide. And that takes us to the end.
Thank you, David. Thank you for sharing this project. I'm sorry to rush you at the end there. We got a lot to cover. So I'm going to do the same thing, go through our jury comments. So one of the comments was this project had an incredible, strong connection to the outdoors and the surrounding communities. The the strategies to ease the entry into the community. David mentioned the spa. So the idea is that people could get a membership to the spa, kind of see if they like the community, and then consider living there afterwards. The integration of staff and residents, the use of focus groups in their design. So again, we're always looking at process and the innovative use of technology. So the submission tip here was zoom out a lot more now. I've seen it blowing up in the last few years, really this focus on context, not just building beautiful buildings that are inwardly focused, but how do we connect to our surrounding neighborhood? How do we be part of the community? How do we invite the community in? And how do we, extend the elders out? So I think this project did a great job of really focusing on that. And for that reason, it stood out. And with that, I'm going to pass it to our next presenter, Dustin Julius, who is going to be speaking to the Center for Resilient Living.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Dustin Julius. I'm an architectural designer at RLPS Architects. We're located in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And LiveWell is located in Plantsville, Connecticut. And they are really a dementia-specific community that provides an unmatched level of care to their residents. And they were looking for the opportunity to advance their architecture to support these operations. But LiveWell's Center for Resilient Living, known as the CRL, kind of goes back to an earlier design philosophy that emerged really early on in the planning process. And that was really, we wanted to design with the residents who are living with cognitive impairment, not just for them. And so we really made an effort to partner with the community residents, those people living with dementia, their family members, and really sort of beyond in order to reinvent this campus. So the CRL that you see depicted here on the left, what was informed and really sort of co-designed by people living with dementia. They served as the experts really that helped us define priorities and objectives throughout the process. So if you go to the next slide, you can see that the site plan here is really sort of three parts. They have an existing series of atrium buildings. Those are the ones in purple. And those are currently skilled nursing. We're working to convert the lower level to assisted living, the CRL that you see here on the left. And then this new product, the river homes, which are in blue, that's a cooperative housing product that's more of a sort of independent living memory care product. If you go to the next slide, really the first phase was about defining program goals. So we engaged residents, staff, family members, and asked them to participate in focus groups and also in a design charrette where they worked within a framework that we kind of borrowed heavily from Dr. Alan Power's 7 domains of well-being. Those are identity, connectedness, security, autonomy, meaning, growth, and joy. And we asked them to take these words, we took those words and put them into graphics that we put on the wall with cup imagery, and asked participants to respond to question prompts. And then they would take those responses, write them on a series of Post-it notes that were color-coded, really either being physical, operational, or personal in nature. And then those responses were put onto the posters that we had on the wall, either filling the cup as a positive idea or draining the cup, one that was draining to that idea. So these responses and suggestions really sort of evolved. They became a series of themes that included variety of space, interaction with others, connection to nature, freedom, opportunities, multisensory appeal, and really diversity of experience. So this methodology, it promoted a beautiful synergy between the staff, the administration, and our design team in order to help the residents verbalize their ideas. So throughout the planning process, the entire team was challenged to constantly be listening and partnering with these individuals. If you go to the next plan, the CRL really responds to these themes. It reinvents LiveWell's adult day programming by providing these sort of purpose-built spaces where residents can explore their interests and pursue their passions through classes, workshops, the arts, cultural and social and wellness opportunities. In addition to serving residents, the CRL extends its service sort of to the surrounding community, and it provides LiveWell also a platform for their monthly memory talks, education seminars, and other initiatives that drive positive change through research and thought leadership and education. The next plan really shows the Center for Resilient Living and how it extends beyond those living on this campus. It also departs from that multi-purpose concept that we're used to seeing for adult day centers. Currently, LiveWell just has one 700 square foot space that residents go to for their adult daycare. And really, this is a total inversion of that philosophy, and instead provides a series of very distinct venues, each specifically imagined for a unique function and designed around creating diverse experiences. These destinations, they serve as, they're a cafe, a demonstration kitchen, a greenhouse, classroom hubs. They are visual arts rooms that are designed to really feel like a studio that has, an exposed ceiling maybe, or, natural northern daylighting. We have raw concrete floors that provide a real space for creating, whether it be painting, pottery, or other works of art. The Performing Arts Theater, that's one of the more grand spaces. It has, intentionally designed acoustics, a dance floor, a movable stage, and supporting technologies. The Exercise Equipment Studio, the Yoga and Movement Studio, those all sort of integrate with each other, as well as the treatment rooms to provide support for physical strength and dexterity. So the plan really takes a fresh look at the idea of a meandering loop as well. And kind of instead of that strategy, it really organizes a free-flowing corridor that is reminiscent of a river. And that idea really harkened back to a fundamental concept where we wanted to catch residents, catch individuals really before their cognitive impairment had progressed, and be able to provide them supports earlier in their process. So that corridor really included those destination spaces as well as interstitial spaces along the way that widen for a variety of other purposes. If you go to the next slide, there's a series of existing courtyards that we were building upon, but we've reimagined them with intergenerational play areas, outdoor dining opportunities, and event spaces. Autonomy was really a true inspiration for the CRL, and the project team made a conscious effort to nurture freedom of movement and individual choice rather than managed experiences. So the goal was to create a unique campus master plan with a series of free-flowing indoor and outdoor spaces that could be accessed without the use of locked doors. And we did that by strategically positioning the CRL to create new opportunities for yoga and meditative fitness activities. The next rendering shows kind of our cafe space. It's not just a place where loved ones can come and share a meal, but it's also a place where family can come and participate in cooking classes in the test kitchen. They can even help by picking fresh herbs from the green wall or by planting in the greenhouse space. The next exterior rendering, this kind of shows the idea of how the community was brought into the early parts of the planning process. If you go to the next slide, and how the design conversations, they were really they remained at the heart of these core design decisions. And because of them, along with their loved ones, who, those are really the people that we were seeking to serve through this process. And if you go to the final slide, really the Center for Resilient Living, it's a new physical space, and we designed it as a way of offering resources to build the capacity of people who are aging and really support them in living resilient lives, both on campus and in the broader community. The CRL, we really sought to define a new paradigm for architectural design that promotes authentic autonomy and freedom, while maintaining that sense of security and ultimately supporting really vibrantly connected lives that are full of growth, meaning, and joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. This project is also amazing. So I'll go through our jury comments for this one. So the metaphor of the river creates fluid space. The design embraced destination spaces rather than the classic loop. This focus on freedom and independence, and really the integrity with which the design team operated and designed with as opposed to for, and that leading to the thoughtful and profound participation. So with the metaphor of the river, we were impressed that Well, the major thing that really stood out, of course, in this project was the process. And as I mentioned, the integrity with which the design team worked and how they really worked with residents, caregivers, staff, and all that are involved in this community and consulted, the real experts. That was really important to us. And then the idea of the metaphor for the river, frequently in senior communities, you don't hear a lot about the art behind the architecture. And so, also thinking about not even, forgetting about really pushing the design envelope also really stood out for us. So the submission tip here is focus on people and innovate in your process. Think about what makes your project truly unique and different. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Amy Carpenter, who is going to be speaking to the Highlands at Wyomissing.
Thanks, Shirah. Hi, everybody. My name is Amy Carpenter. I am an architect and principal with SFCS Architects in their Philadelphia office. The Highlands, they were a really great client to work with and a visionary client, and they were looking to reinvent their existing assisted living building. And they had three primary goals. First one was to elevate the finishes and the amenity spaces to match the level and feel of and quality of their independent living, which would provide a seamless transition between all levels of care. And I think you've heard a few people speak to that. Seems like everybody is doing that these days. The second goal was to provide a variety of outdoor spaces with easy access to outside. And then the third goal was to incorporate the latest research and best practices to really elevate the resident experience. Next slide. So this is a two-level plan. On the lower level, we did selective demolition where you see the two resident wings that are off on angles. We demolished the whole core space in between those resident wings. And the goal was really to create real amenity space for the residents living on this floor, because previously they had to go upstairs for dining and any activities spaces. We added a commercial kitchen and a dining venue, living space, and then we reconfigured the units to add a sitting room in the middle of the northern wing there. And then that also provides access, another point of access to the new garden space and to the north of the common area. We also expanded the existing fitness space for the campus, which you can kind of see with the curved wall kind of in the bottom left of the plan. We expanded the existing campus fitness room space, giving more space for fitness, but also to allow really easy access for the assisted living residents to come in and continue their fitness routines. And then finally on this plan, in the lower end there, we also created a new fitness garden space with rubberized paving and shade sails so that they could hold outdoor fitness classes. Next slide. The picture on the left shows this center core area before, and it had really low ceilings and even lower light levels. But then with the rebuilt space, we were able to create higher ceilings and a roof monitor that had specialty glazing that refracts and spreads the daylight more evenly without any glare. The cove lighting and all of the decorative lighting throughout the whole building has a tunable LED system with a control system that matches the color temperature of natural daylight. And it has daylight sensors also to supplement lighting levels on cloudy days. Next slide. On the left, you see what was previously an unused, inaccessible area outside the north wing of the building. We transformed this into a new garden with a variety of zones for both active and passive outdoor activities or outdoor use. There's There's a koi pond in the back right corner. On the back left corner is a whole horticultural area, horticultural therapy area with raised planters, and there's a garden shed. You can kind of see the top of it with the cupola there. But probably my favorite part of this courtyard was what we affectionately called the tiki bar, and you can see that on the left. And this was a real outdoor kitchen. We had a gas grill, sinks, under-counter refrigerator, and even a speed well for afternoon cocktails. But behind the wall that you see on the left-hand side was the main kitchen. So this space can also be used as a seasonal dining venue. You can create a whole menu there that has to create a different experience for the residents. Also note the translucent glazing that's used over the tiki bar, and in the top left corner of the image, you can see it on the porch that's outside of the dining room. We worked with a daylight consultant, and this porch faces due north. And we knew that if we did a normal porch roof there, that it would block any natural light coming into the dining room. So using this translucent glazing, it still allows the light to come through while providing shelter from the rain and blocking a little bit of the sunlight for the people sitting out on the porch. In the center section behind, next to the tiki bar, if you advance to the next slide, you'll see a feature element for the courtyard, which was a double-sided gas fireplace. And the CEO had seen this in a hotel that he just loved it, and he wanted to bring that experience back for the residents. You can also see the wide porch overhangs on the left, and then beyond, which looks back into the dining room. And then, you know, all the porches and the shade structure on the right have ceiling fans, which help provide a breeze and make it even a little bit more comfortable to sit out there in the hotter months of the year. And this is in Pennsylvania, which it does get quite hot and humid. And then also there's a lot of landscape lighting, and the landscape, sorry, my lights just went out. There's a landscape lighting, and the landscape was specifically designed to create interest in both at nighttime, but in all seasons of the year. So even when there's no leaves on the trees, there's still interest going on in the garden space. Next slide. On the upper level, on the picture on the upper left, you can see that there was a large skylight that was over top of a piece of the dining room space. And this skylight brought in so much light that residents actually had to sit and eat their lunch with sunglasses on. It also produced so much heat and glare that it was just so uncomfortable to be in that space, and the surrounding spaces seemed so dark in comparison to it. So we worked with a daylighting consultant, as I mentioned, and we replaced the skylight with a pop-up roof monitor that had glazing on the sides. And if you could see the diagram in the middle of the slide, we angled the ceiling at the top and then flared out the bottom of the roof monitor to really help bounce daylight deeper into the space. And it really provides a nice even light level. On the cross beams and the coves you see, as well as the decorative lighting, it has tunable lighting throughout there, but the beams help shine light up into that roof monitor so that it provides interest even at night. On the far left of the image, the after image, you also see a wide expanse of French doors that provide a lot of views out into the courtyard, as well as a variety of access points out into the courtyard. And again, this was really important to the client to make sure that the residents could not only make that connection, the visual connection with the outdoors, but also to allow them to get outside as easily as possible. Next slide. And just lastly, just an image of, this is the before and after of the same Nook area. This was the memory care was on the upper level, and you could see that we bumped out the existing millwork to build in a memory box that has a light built into it. And again, a real focus on providing a lot of views to the outside corridor to orient residents to where they are at all times. And then just making it a comfortable and welcoming environment. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. That was great. Perfect timing as well. So I'll go into our jury comments. So what really stood out for this project was the emphasis on research, which it made it unique. The attention paid to lighting and comfort, the exterior patios, bringing the program outdoors, and the impressive mitigation of glare. So this was actually the only project that we had submitted that had any focus on research at all. And this focused so much on, on lighting and also learning from this process, right? Really looking at the nitty gritty, getting into something very, very specific and succinct. And so the submission tip here is research and development is cutting edge. And like I said, anything that we can do to make it so the next project that we do is even better, because look at what we've learned from this project and being intentional about that. That's where the innovation was. So thank you again for that great project. And seems like we're good on time. It is working. I'm going to hand it over to our last presenter, Jerry Walleck, who is going to be presenting Maravilla at the Domain.
Thank you. I was almost distracted by Amy's use of the phrase tiki bar a few too many times there, but stayed on here. I'm Jerry Walleck. I'm with Perkins Eastman. I'm out of the Chicago office. And we do both interiors and architecture in our senior living practice throughout many of our offices across the nation. And this project here is Maravilla at the Domain. So our client senior resource group really kind of wanted an entree into the Texas market and spent several years looking for just the right site. And I'll say one of the themes for many of the projects you saw today is that sort of greater connectedness to a larger community. And even though SRG, has the campuses that are a little bit more segregated, they've really made a strong effort to really go out and find these urban areas where they could build this integrated, connected community and really take advantage of the amenities that are there. This site was an old IBM campus, brownfield, and was developed in 3 phases. A certain amount of retail, entertainment, other housing options, office. So it really is truly a mixed use community, and even has sort of gained the name as the second Austin downtown right now. It's about 20 minutes out of Austin. And I'll sort of expand on that and say this is actually the 4th project that we're doing sort of in the last year for different clients that is so well connected to these, I'll say, lifestyle centers, shopping centers, and entertainment districts. So a lot of different, I would say, mostly for-profits are really starting to search out these sites. And even one of our clients has started to look at sort of unused sites on mall properties, which have taken a hit during COVID, obviously, and look for space there that they could connect and create a synergy where it actually creates a little bit of a reverberance of the mall property. So our client really came up with the tagline for this, which was relaxed elegance. And it was something that we sort of worked with from early on in the project. It's really a resort style hospitality. The hospitality is not just in the architecture, it's in how they sort of treat the resident. The residents here can easily get concierge service to set up reservations at nearby restaurants. They have service that can drive you there, pick you up, bring you back. so you can have drinks in the bar afterwards. So it really is that hospitality type of environment. If you go to the next slide here, what you'll start to see, what we organized on the site here, is there's 3 towers and you're seeing 2 of them. The program is 142 independent living apartments, 54 assisted living apartments, and 34 memory support units. The memory support units are on 2 floors and they are in a small house model done in a vertical tower. So we're interested to run post-occupancy evaluations down the road and see how that is functioning for them. We do a lot of work with SRG, so we are able to really kind of share things from our work and from their other communities. If you go to the next slide, you start to see how this is really connected to a larger community. The buildings with the blue around them are this project. You'll see the 3 towers coming out of the site there on a plinth, which is the town center, or as we call it, the Center for Healthy Living. But around here, there is lots of restaurants, hotels, stores. You know, they have a couple Starbucks, and you know, you've really made it when you start to get the Whole Foods moved in there too. So there's really a lot of things within walking distance of this community, and it even goes off further to the right of your screen here. If you go to the next slide, what we have is this entry courtyard. This is taken from one of the apartment balconies looking down. The one thing about being in an urban area is you really have to consider what your neighbors are and what your views are. Some of them are very good. Some of them are a little more average, depending on what's being built around you. And so we really tried to arrange these 3 towers to capitalize on capturing 4 themed courtyards. So this is the entry courtyard. In that glass wall that you're seeing beyond there is the bar. Senior Resource Group really likes to have that entertainment bar atmosphere right as you enter the project. And then if you go to the next slide, you start to see a site plan of this, and you'll get a feel for how the towers are laid out and how they slide across the site and create those different courtyards. We have our entry courtyard and hospitality courtyard. We have our wellness courtyard to the right. We have an assisted living courtyard, which is a little more private. And then we have a dining courtyard, which is connected to the 3 dining rooms there. Next slide. And this will give you a better feel for the first floor. On the top middle bar is really all the wellness functions, and you'll see the pool and the locker room. The middle bar to the lower side is the kitchen and the 3 dining venues. And to the left, you'll see more of a small administrative office suite, marketing, and then the cultural aspects of the town center. And each of them with a different themed courtyard that they open onto. The right tower is really dedicated to the assisted living program with the dining room and functions of the assisted living on the first floor. Next slide, please. So as you come through that entrance, this is the dining room. This project is LEED Silver and did use quite a few materials that were local to Texas, from the stone you'll see that you saw on the exterior of the building, to that used in the fireplace, to the reclaimed wood. Again, a lot of us have said or talked about the connections to the exterior. The building plate is a little bit thinner, so you're always very close to the outside and close to the courtyard. And then you'll see the vibrant colors to really kind of punch up sort of the backdrop of the nice sort of wood materials. Next slide. This is the bar, and you start to see that entry courtyard with the fountain in the background there. You'll also see that sort of what's referred to as the Austin stone, but a very vibrant sort of atmosphere here. I think the other thing that we discussed as we were programming the building, and the advantage of being connected to so many other entertainment options, especially restaurants, is you're able to look at your operations for a building like this and start to think about reducing what you do build for your dining venues, for your theaters, and for some of your other wellness programs too, because there are other things so close to you that trying to just create that connection for the residents to be able to get out and experience some of those other things is really one of the major goals of a project like this. And hopefully in the long run, I think what SRG really wants to strive for is that not only does the residents of this building depend on the amenities that are outside, but the people who live in the community start to depend on the amenities within the domains, within the Maravilla project here. They have a program here for the residents that they are opening up for memberships to people who are 55 and older that can partake in them within the building, and lots of multi-use space where they can invite people from the community. And so not only do they depend on the external community, the community starts to depend on them. Next slide. This is one of the dining venues, and you'll start to see that exterior courtyard that I showed, or the exterior courtyard will come up later. I'm sorry. I think the other thing, some of the things that with COVID here that were very good was that they were able to do through their dining room sort of a delivery program to the apartments through LEED. The mechanical systems were really robust, so we could increase the air changes that came into here. But we were able to really, through the things we did through sustainability in here, really respond to the COVID pandemic pretty quickly and easily. Next slide. I want to stay on track here. And this is the outside dining venue here, looking back at the dining rooms. And I think that's it, Shirah. Yep, there you go.
You're right. Perfect timing as well. Okay. Thank you so much, Jerry, for speaking to that great project. So the jury comments for this one were, the high-end classic luxury, obviously. The siting near the lifestyle center, that was a really big one. As was mentioned during the presentation, context. The mixed use urban center that was close to this one, I think was even mentioned by the keynote at EFA this year, who were speaking to their book, Retrofitting Suburbia. So really placing these senior communities and walkable environments that are connected to their communities is a big deal. The beautiful use of materials and of the sense of place. So paying attention to where they were, in particular in Texas, and creating a space that spoke to home. So the submission tip here, what makes your project unique? Keep coming back to this one. We get tons of beautiful projects to look at. I mean, genuinely beautiful projects. So you really have to think about what makes yours stand out. Is it research? Is it process? Is it location, etc.? So with that, I think that we actually have a few minutes. We have about 3 minutes left on the clock that we could open this up for questions. I'm going to see, I don't have anything yet in the Q&A, but if anyone has any questions that they would like to, I first have to say that the AIA portion of this is concluded. And thank you very much for joining. And when the webinar ends, you will get a link to a survey. So if you have the time, please click on that link and answer the survey, because it will help us improve these webinars going forward. And of course, thank you everyone for attending, those who attended, and all of the presenters for taking the time to present your awesome projects. And now I will open it up to any questions that people might have to discuss with the presenters. And if there are no questions, then I'll just say thank you for coming, and please come to our next webinar next month.
This is Lori from Sage, and it looks like we're not going to have any questions. So thank you all so much for joining us today. And you will receive a link to the webinar recording, as well as a PDF link to the presentation today. So thank you so much for joining us.